All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. We will get started in just a moment. I put a note in the chat to remind you that you will receive a copy of the recording today automatically. And if you would like to request the slides, you can do so by emailing us to the email address that I just put in the chat box. You should be able to hear me okay, as well as see my slides. If you can just let me know in the chat, yes or no, or give me a thumbs up that that's the case, that would be great. And I'm going to go ahead and get the recording started, hop on video, and we will get going. Give me 1 second. All right, so we are recording. Just as a quick reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording automatically. And if you would like to request the slides, you can email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hallie Crawford, certified career coach, speaker, and author. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we are going to be talking about solving career burnout and how to get re-inspired, re-engaged, feeling better and differently about our careers. So I've been coaching and training since 2002. So it's been a long time. My running joke is my gray hair is underneath, fortunately for me. Coaching and training since 2002. I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And I'm thrilled to be here with you all today. This is our Georgia State Alumni and Friends webinar. We host monthly webinars. So for those of you who have not joined us before, welcome and thank you for being here today. And one of the first things that I always like to say at the beginning of our webinars is we give a lot of advice during the course of our 30 minutes. And I would suggest that you pick and choose what makes the most sense for you based on your situation and needs. You can always listen to the recording later. As a reminder, you'll get that automatically and you can request the slides. That's in the chat box. But we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. We want this to be useful for you. So pick 1 or 2 things that you'll work on first in order to start getting better about or feeling better related to your career burnout. And then you can pick other things to pick up on in the next several weeks. So whether you are bored, most likely not the case, more likely overworked, or whether you're not challenged anymore, this sense of burnout is happening to a lot of people, and a lot of people just because of layoffs and other things that have gone on in the workforce in the past several months, including past several years as well, has caused people to either want to make a change or feel like they need to do something in their current position to feel better right away. And there are a lot of factors that impact how we feel about work. If you've been subject to layoffs within your organization and now you're carrying more of the load, whether it's downsizing, layoffs, or other things. And in some cases, for some people, if you're still working remotely or in a hybrid model, that can increase burnout in some cases as well. And as a result of all of these things, it's very easy to get stressed out and burned out. And we want to help you think about ways that you can start working on this right now in your current position. But if you also need to be thinking about making a change longer term, that may be one of the things that you need to be considering as well as part of what we talk about today. Now, let's look at this next slide here together for a moment. The first thing that we would suggest you consider is to think about why burnout is happening for you. Is it because you've been in a specific situation for a really long time, whether it's in a certain job, role, or organization, or even in your industry, and you're just getting kind of sick of it, so to speak? Is it because you are called upon to do something that you're really good at, but you no longer enjoy? That happens for a lot of people. Sometimes even if we're in the right job, doing the right things, we can get sick of it or it can get overwhelming. In other cases, our lives or career changes can shift and happen just as things do. And what's are rewarding for us or what our priorities are may have shifted or changed. And then we've already said this one, the one at the very bottom here is a really big one for a lot of people, is our workload can change, increase, or, just become different due to technology, et cetera, depending on certain scenarios. And this has a really big negative impact for people. We can get bored, we can become lethargic, we can get overwhelmed, disinterested, and even frozen in some cases when we get overwhelmed and we don't know how to handle this. And as a result, understandably, we become less effective. We automatically become less efficient because we're stressed out too, and we can't think as effectively, and therefore more successful or less successful as a result too. So here's our agenda for today. So for those of you who have just joined us, reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording. If you would like to receive a copy of our slides, the email address is listed on the slide here, and it's also in the chat box. We would be happy to share those with you. We're going to talk today about the situations where burnout can happen and the impact it has on us, as we already have. We'll give you 10 tips to manage this effectively. Pick and choose what makes the most sense for you and your situation. Try something for the next week or so, and then pick up something else that we're suggesting to see if that makes sense for you to add on to things as well. So our first kind of self-reflective poll for today is we want you to assess which issue applies to you. So we talked about this a couple of slides ago, but go ahead and write down why the burnout is happening for you, because the way that you're going to know how to deal with it and where you need to make adjustments and what types of adjustments you need to make are going to depend on why this is occurring. So write down which one of these makes the most sense for you or what the situation is. And it's okay, by the way, if it's a couple of them. Self-awareness or awareness is the first step, right? We have to know and understand what's going on first, then we can make adjustments and address things. And the 10 things that we want to talk about today, so let's go ahead and dive into those, is we want you to consider all of these different things, assessing what's going on, making a list of things that need to change, etc. So this is what we're going to cover until the top of the half hour today as we go through. So let's look first, and we're kind of piggybacking on what we already talked about in terms of this assessment. So we do want you to think about which of the issues we pointed out a moment ago make the most sense for your situation or what's actually happening for you. But we also encourage you tonight before you go to bed for 5 minutes, doesn't have to take that long, take a quick step back and ask you, okay, what needs to be different? And what do you want in your job now or next? What would be better? Do you need to make a change in terms of your role, in terms of your company, in terms of your industry? Or can you get back to that passion, that enjoyment, however you see it for yourself, so you're less burned out in the role or position that you're in now? And think also about, okay, if you're feeling burned out, sometimes it's hard for us to remember why we got into this job or position in the first place. So why did you embark on your career path in the first place, from whether it's years and years ago or just recently? To get back to, okay, what are my reasons for being here? And assess whether those reasons are the right ones for you. And that's a really big question to ask yourself. Am I here for the right reasons or the wrong ones? As part of this self-assessment, we encourage you to leverage our ideal career model. This is the model we use with our clients to help them figure out how to deal with this burnout. What's working for you based on these different elements? For example, are you leveraging your strengths where you are or not really? Are you in the right work environment? If you look at the far left here, is your compensation part of the issue? Is it that, for example, you're not fulfilled in your current job and that's why you're experiencing this sense of burnout? So you can actually use this model as a checklist for yourself to get a sense of what's working where I am now and what's not working. And then you can identify much more clearly what needs to change and what you need to tackle. What tends to happen to people when they're unhappy and burned out, understandably, is they get really overwhelmed and they just think, okay, I need to start all over again and go do something completely different than what I've been doing. And 9 times out of 10, you don't have to do that. You can make course corrections or subtle shifts and adjustments that actually can help with this. So that's why we recommend this checklist to say, check the boxes and say what's working, what's not. Then you know clearly what you need to change or do differently and where to focus. After you've conducted this self-assessment, identify the top 5 things that need to be different. So narrow down your list and figure out, okay, what needs to change? And there's a couple of examples on the slide here. And are those things that you can adjust or do anything about in your current role, industry, et cetera? And one of the things that we would recommend to get a clear self-assessment of what's really going on too is on the left-hand side of this slide, track your hours for the next 5, well, actually it could just be 2 or 3. I would say 2 or 3, 5 days at the most. Again, depending on what your work schedule is like. If it varies a lot, do 5 days. If it's pretty similar every day, track it for 2 or 3 days. But track your time. Where are you spending the most of your time at work? Where are you spending the least amount of time? The reason why I say this is because sometimes we make assumptions and we think we're spending a lot of time in this one area, but because we don't like that one area, we are assuming that we're spending a lot more time there. So really getting an objective opinion or sense of where your time is really being spent can help enormously as part of developing this list of top 5 things so that you're being objective and realistic about it. And then think about, on this next slide, kind of what we said a moment ago, can you get those top 5 things? Can you make these changes at your current job? Or do you need to switch roles or organizations in order to do that? We always want people to try to achieve what they want at their current position first, if it's at all possible. Look in your own backyard, just because that's the easiest thing to do versus conducting a job search and making a shift. Nothing wrong with doing that. That's what we help people with all the time. But it is worth trying to, A, feel better where you are now so that you can get to a better like mental space, if you will. And B, try to adjust things. Sometimes when we ask, we're surprised pleasantly at the result. And if nothing else, if you get a no, at least you've asked and you've said, for example, okay, now that I've decided to move on, at least I did everything I possibly could where I am now. Most people want to be able to say that. So identify those top 5 things, see if you can achieve them where you are, try to make that happen. And if not, make a plan to make a move. Tip number 3 to help with burnout is to try to constantly remain, and this isn't all the time, it's not to add something to your list, but sometimes when we're getting burned out, it's because we're no longer challenged. We are less efficient with our work, or maybe it's because we're overwhelmed with new technology or something different. So as part of number 3, staying in the know and staying on top of new challenges, new software and skills that you need to obtain in order to be successful in your role and in your industry. It's not just helpful to help you with this burnout and in some cases help you be more efficient with your job, but it also makes you marketable if you do need to make a change. So make sure that you add to your strategic career plan what you need to do in order to stay challenged, marketable, ready to make a move if that's necessary to do. And as part of challenges for yourself, don't wait on your employer to hand these over to you. Something that I find after having been in business for a long time, since 2002, is that about every 2 or 3 years, I get kind of antsy for that next thing, that next challenge. And it's really important for us as professionals, regardless of whether you're a business owner like me or not, it doesn't matter, that you don't wait on your employer to give you that next challenge to help you grow in your role. You need to take this on for yourself because you are your own best advocate and the person that's going to pay the most attention. So do you need to attend a conference and make sure that you do so every year or twice a year to stay challenged, in the know, keep up with your network? Do you need to try to perform your job in a different way in order to solve this sense of burnout or grow or change in your role? Don't rely on your employer to help you with this. Not just because some employers will not do so, some are fantastic and great at it, but you want to make sure that you are creating your path and carving out the role that you want to be in the long run so that you don't get burned out as much as possible. Tip number 4 is to put yourself out there more. When we tend to get burned out, a lot of times we tend to kind of go into our shell a little bit more, nose to the grindstone. We talk to people less. We just feel like we have to get all of our work done, as one example. And we want you to put yourself out there more instead, because this is going to help you feel better by just being more social at work, attending events that you may be putting off inside and outside of your organization. This will help you in a lot of ways get re-energized. You may get ideas about what you need to do about your burnout. Attend industry association meetings to help you with this too. You'll learn about new things out there, new ways of doing your work, trends in the market, and you'll be invited to do more because you'll be seen and visible more within and outside of your organization as well. Tip number 5, for those of you who feel like you want to try something new or you need like the next challenge, so to speak, is to consider volunteering outside of work. It could be outside of work externally, or it could be raising your hand for projects that you are interested in and you want to add to your resume. So volunteering can be personal or professional, whatever works best for you. And there's a couple of websites on this slide here. And remember, you can get the slides, just email us. It's in the chat box, where you can look at volunteer opportunities. The reason, or part of the reason I bring this up, is we've had clients before volunteer to work on, for example, a Google Analytics project to help a nonprofit organization improve their website ratings, tracking, et cetera. They were able to participate in that project for 3 months. It was something they put on their resume. They got kudos and a testimonial from the project leader, as well as from the organization that they worked with, and that's experience they could put on their resume. So you can use this volunteer work in lots of different ways. If you feel like you need that next challenge, if you feel like you're not as fulfilled in your current job and you need to do something a little bit more rewarding, in some cases, we might need to do this outside of work. And if you're trying to maybe make a shift, this type of experience can help you do that in some cases too. Tip number 6 is very similar to some of the other ones that we've already talked about. This is to participate more actively with your team. Speak up in meetings, not just attend them, but ask questions, make suggestions. You'll be called upon and seen. You'll be called upon to help more with things that rely on your expertise. These types of things, being involved and attached to, so to speak, your organization, the mission, and your coworkers, helps you get more motivated again and more enthusiastic about what you do. It helps keep you driven and that motivation going. So instead of going internally, like we said earlier, because you're so overwhelmed, let's say, and swamped, make an effort to go to lunch at your organization with one person a week. Just get out of the office, take a quick walk, take a walk around the block twice a day just to get some fresh air and get a new or fresh perspective if you're feeling overwhelmed and burned out in that way. So participate actively with your team within your organization, even though your inclination may be to not do that. Tip number 7 is to communicate with your boss more regularly about what's going on for you. Now, we realize that not everyone's boss is so nice that they're going to listen to this, or that you may not feel as comfortable as you could speaking to your boss about feeling burned out. But we would encourage you to talk to someone about it, whether it's your boss, whether it's a coworker, a mentor, or a friend or family member outside of the office, a coach like us. If you're feeling really burned out and stressed, consider a therapist. You need to get some of this stuff out there into the world in order to relieve some of your stress. But talking through things is very therapeutic as well. And it can help you not just release some of the sense of burned out, stress, etc., but it can motivate you again. You can get ideas from the other person. What we find with our clients is that just talking with us, sometimes they come up with their own ideas about how they want to handle things. Get support with this, because if you don't, if you just stay to yourself or keep to yourself and kind of stay in your hole, it's not going to be as effective. So when we're talking about discussing things with your boss, let's look at this next slide here for a moment. I used to have a boss, and she was exactly right, that she said, our performance reviews and what we discuss should never be a surprise. You should know what's coming, and I should know what's coming, because we're having open, direct conversation as much as possible between those performance reviews. So you want to let your supervisor know if you're looking for that next challenge, if you need to brush up on, or you want to learn a new skill. Don't assume that they're just going to come to you and take control of your career path. So think about for yourself and talk with someone, whether it's your supervisor or someone else, regularly about what you need to do to stay fulfilled and effective. If you feel you're being overworked and you're overwhelmed, can you think about who else can pitch in? Can you ask for help from your supervisor or someone else within the organization? Do you need to go to HR? Is it that dire or difficult at this point that you need to talk with them about, hey, I need some help here sorting through some issues? Communicate about your long-term goals. Don't assume that your boss knows exactly what you're thinking and that they know that you want to move up or that you're getting burned out. It's worth trying to have a conversation with them about, are there things that you can help me with, or someone else can help me learn how to be more efficient with time management or whatever makes the most sense. Ask for that support and help. And we know that these types of conversations can sometimes be a little bit touchy, and there are certain ways that you can say things effectively. We always offer a free consult if you are interested in our services or you know anyone else that is. We always do that to help you learn a little bit more about our services, what we offer, how we can help, and if it's the right fit for you. And we do give a discount for Georgia State alumni. So please let us know that you are from Georgia State, because we will give you that coupon code when you're ready to sign up with us, if so. This, by the way, is the same email address that you can get the slides from automatically. So just feel free to email us about either of those things. And quick reminder too, just keep an eye on your email. You will get a copy of the recording automatically. Let's look at tip number 8, and this is to take a class, online or otherwise. This can help us get re-engaged if we're feeling like we need that next challenge, for example, or if you feel like you may need to make a move to learn something new, get certified in order to make that shift. What we find is when people take a class, whether it's something online for free, it doesn't have to cost much or anything. Coursera.org is great, edX, LinkedIn Learning, all good resources. Even if it's just a one-time class to help you learn something new or a different way of approaching some of your workload, your tasks, etc. This is not only helpful to give you new skills, if you will, but it also helps motivate people. We want people to do a better job as much as possible about not just doing their job and doing their work, but thinking about and considering how they do their work and how they approach it. This is taking that big picture perspective in view to say, where are areas that I could be more effective or efficient with my time? And this goes back to, as we said earlier, if you take a couple days to track your time, you may be surprised at where there could be some inefficiencies or where you may want to make some changes in your schedule, in your order of priority for your day, and how you handle certain tasks. This is where, when you're talking with colleagues and if you attend meetings, etc., these types of things could come up in conversation, and you can ask them how they handle certain things. So sometimes just brainstorming with someone else or asking them how they're doing and how they approach something specific can actually help enormously. Let's look at our last 2 tips. And this is to number 9, is to not just adapt to change, but in some cases, cause change. Change is uncomfortable for people, regardless of who you are and what life situation you're in or where you are in the professional stage of your career path. So I'm 51 and I still don't like change. It's not my favorite thing. We want you to work on developing this muscle for being able to embrace change, be open to it and more flexible with it, and even more so, cause it. So in some cases, if we're burned out, there may be things that need to be fixed within our organization. And I am not saying that you can wave a magic wand and everything's going to be perfect, but at least try. Suggest updates, suggest improvements that may need to happen, suggest or point out inefficiencies and where could you all do things a little bit better within your team or within your organization. So be willing to bring things up, identify issues or challenges or things that could be improved. And remember that we don't want you to just be the squeaky wheel and just complain about something and that's it. When you do this and identify something, also be sure to come forward right then and there with some suggestions for improvements. Be a part of that change, be a part of the solution, I should say. So in some cases with our burnout, we understandably just kind of go with the status quo. We don't want to, make any waves or changes, but sometimes that's the exact thing we need to do in order to be less burned out, make improvements, and have things be a little bit better. And finally, tip number 10 is to create a plan for yourself so that you avoid burnout going forward. So make a plan based on what we've talked about today, based on leveraging our ideal career model to say, can I stay or go? And then say to yourself, for example, if you look at the left-hand side of the slide here, I'm going to stay at my current role for X amount of time, try to make these changes, whether it's 6 months to 8 months. You need to give yourself a little bit of time, make some of these changes and see if I can feel better. And if I can't at that point, I'm going to start to think about making a move if that's necessary. If things feel better at that point, fantastic, stay put. Establish 3, 6, and 12-month goals for yourself for how you want to feel, what things need to be different, and make sure that you regularly update that plan based on how things change. So set goals. It's better to have something in writing than nothing. Worst case, you can change or adjust them as needed. We always want our clients to have a strategic career plan, and preventing burnout should be part of this. We have a plan, a template that we use with our clients. You can purchase it online. Just email us if you'd like information about that. But it's built around the 8 components of our career model to help ensure that they are covering all of those bases. So create that strategic career plan. And within that, for right now, your immediate need is, what do I need to do about feeling burned out? What's the time frame I'm going to give myself in order to evaluate things and make changes, and then see what I need to do at that point. Finally, before we go, I would love it if you would take a moment to write down one action step that you will take in the next week. It could be reviewing the model. It could be identifying 1 or 2 ways to work more efficiently, whatever makes the most sense for you. But go ahead and write that down, put it on a Post-it note, because my goal is at the end of the day here that you've got at least one thing that you will start to work on as it relates to burnout so you can start to feel better. Please know that there is a snowball effect here. What we find is small changes that you make can actually have really big results. So know that from the things that we talked about today, we are not expecting or telling you that you have to turn your world upside down in order to not feel burned out. We've actually found that people, when they start making these slight adjustments, it actually can make a really big difference in how you feel about your work. Please feel free to email us if you'd like a copy of the slides, learn more about the career plan, and learn more about our coaching services. We would be more than happy to talk with you. For the moment, though, we hope this webinar was helpful for you as a starting point. Good luck to you and have a great rest of the day. Look out for the recording in your email. It should be immediate, if not within the next 24 hours.